Everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and more denser it is. If an inferiority is conscious, one always has the chance to correct it. But if it is repressed and isolated from consciousness, it never gets corrected and is liable to burst forth suddenly in a moment of unawareness. At all counts, it forms an unconscious snag, thwarting our most well-meant intentions. This was an excerpt by Carl Jung in Psychology and Religion, West and East. Carl Jung speaks of two distinct shadows that you can find. One is the personal shadow, and that is the shadow that you find in the individual, and one is the collective shadow, the shadow of the greater society. His clearest definition of what a personal shadow is the thing that a person has no wish to be. It is the part about you that you wish to deny about yourself, and so you hide it from your conscious mind altogether. Although we do catch very fleeting glimpses of this shadow from time to time. These parts of you which seem weak, evil, and socially unacceptable, we are talking about what is often described the monkey mind, or the primal beast mind. Very often we see this shadow emerge in situations of high anxiety and high stress. Then this mind shows itself, or under the influence of intoxication, drug use, alcohol use. Often when the inhibitions are very low, these shadows tend to emerge and reveal themselves. Very often we find ourselves projecting these things onto others. We start to blame others, point our fingers at other people. We like to pretend, to assume that the other people are responsible for the way that we are feeling, not acknowledging or adding personal depth to the emotions that we are experiencing. We find the danger of the shadow is that because it is able to hide itself so well behind our conscious mind, so well indeed that the conscious mind can never recognize it, can never see it, except for in fleeting moments. And thus, when the shadow acts out, it often catches the conscious mind by surprise. We lash out, we act in toxic ways, toxic behaviors towards others. We may steal, cheat, rob, or generally behave in ways which is immoral, unconscious, and seems like it does not fit very well at all with the conscious mind and its normal behavior. However, according to Jung, not all attributes that are found in the shadow can be regarded as negative. In fact, there are many positive attributes that can be found in the shadow. Quoting Jung, the shadow displays a number of good qualities, such as normal instincts, appropriate reactions, realistic insights, creative impulses, etc. The only time, like any person, the shadow tends to lash out is when it is being ignored, misunderstood, lied to, or treated hostilely. And there is the importance of how we speak to and interact with our own shadows. Without embracing our shadow and getting to know and getting in touch with our shadows, we tend to, as people, become very stagnant. A lot of the good qualities and abilities which are locked in our shadow remain so, and it stifles our growth. We find hiccups, snags. We tend to get stuck where there is development potential that could happen without that getting involved and getting to know your own shadow. You find that you're no longer able to progress in a certain way which you would have otherwise. A very good example is if a person believes that being assertive is actually being rude or aggressive. And so, because of this, they lose the qualities of confidence and the ability to speak up for themselves and be honest. And as you can see, without this quality, it'll be very difficult for someone to say, get a promotion at work, to get ahead in life. to build more positive relationships with others with respect. When a person with these unresolved shadow traits approaches and comes across someone who has these positive traits, say assertiveness, then they will project their insecurities upon that person. They will build resentment, jealousy, and they may act untoward towards this person. These interactions challenge the ego of the individual. What we may call pride comes into play. And when the pride gets in the way, then the person is unable to move forwards and they are stuck and they are trapped. These interactions, if you find yourself reacting in such a way, is invaluable, because what it does is it gives you a roadmap to your own shadow. And thus we can begin years of work on oneself, where there is no limit to how much we can heal, but there is also no limit to how much we can grow as people. By delving inwardly whenever we feel these triggers, taking note of when we are triggered in this way, we can then go inside and get in touch with this part of ourselves in a loving and gentle way, and we can understand ourselves on a much deeper level. This could be regarded as the pathway towards enlightenment and reducing the shadow's destructive abilities upon one's world. Now, this is not a war against the shadow. In fact, this is bringing light to the shadow and shadow to the light. What this is a unification of two worlds, the yin and the yang, the merger to create a whole and balanced psyche and individual. As scary as it may seem, delving into our shadow is actually a process which brings great relief to the soul and to the emotional state and to the mind. As we delve into and get in touch with our shadows, things become clearer. We understand more about ourselves, and it helps us to make more sense of the world around us. As we integrate these things, it lessens the shadow's grip of fear and abandonment upon our own conscious psyches that is happening in unconscious ways. Now it will start to happen in conscious ways, and we can get to know deeper why we act and feel the way that we do in many situations which would have otherwise been a mystery to us. The great challenge, however, for the average person is they are often unwilling to even face the moral compass of their conscious minds, let alone the unconscious. And so integration seems nearly impossible for some individuals who are not willing to challenge themselves and to face these things within themselves. For those doing deep shadow work, you often hit a moment where you must also face the social shadow. Human beings have a massive collective shadow among them, in which human beings will often act outside of what you view as moral, as your moral compass, doing great evils upon the world and to each other, inflicting horrors and terror, great destruction. These things are coming from the unconscious collective mind, and it seems that society as a whole, while on the surface acts morally, beneath the surface may not act morally at all. We may find this reflected in seeing great wars upon the earth, where the shadow of humanity and the unconscious social shadow is played out. Or we may see it in other ways. For instance, the mandate of religion, social order, or language imposed upon foreign cultures. There are many ways that this social shadow can manifest. Sickness, poverty, malnutrition, alcoholism, crime, death of cultures, and so on. But not all social shadows are manifest outwardly. In fact, many are manifest inwardly. For example, hatred towards oneself, one's heritage, and one's culture. It brings great feelings of despair. And with such hatred towards your own people, then you start to judge and act out, pushing that towards others, projecting your hatred of self onto other people. Now, make no mistake, what we are describing here is what Christianity has labeled as evil, the manifestation of evil on the planet. And while it is good to have definitions of these things and to have labels, it is something that if we delve deeper into understanding, we can have a clearer picture of what that actually means and see it is a very real and tangible occurrence which is happening within societies, both ancient and modern. While traditional religions will preach that the resolving of evil upon the planet is an outward quest to find God and to connect to God, the true resolving of evil happens within by integrating our shadows, by integrating the social shadows. We are actually combating this evil and we are diminishing its influence upon the world. And as such, we are living more as the original teachings of the Essene, of the original ministries of Christ, who says that God and the kingdom of God is within. And what this looks like putting into practice is taking responsibility, not just for your actions, but for the actions of the greater society around you. This takes a lot of great courage. For it is bearing the burden of this darkness of our collective shadow that we are able to free others from it. This is a rather difficult process as there are no quick fixes. What it means is that in lieu of disastrous events, wars, famines, genocides, that the aftermath, the people who have survived such things, at some point may come together and bear the responsibility of what has happened, to deeply share the connection between them, to heal the rifts, to merge their pains and their sorrows with hope. An extreme example of this may be if the original soldiers of Nazi Germany had come together with the original soldiers of the Russian forces or the USSR, who had fought so bloodily and so violently against each other. If their children, their ancestors, or even the soldiers themselves started to come together and acknowledge the parts that they had played in the war, acknowledge their responsibilities to each other, and reflected deeply upon the very nature of humanity and what this means for us, what we are capable of doing to each other. And perhaps we can grow and learn from this. And as we can see, while acknowledging these things to each other and being truly honest about it, it gives the shadow no place to hide. We do not deny these things about ourselves, rather we acknowledge them and we bring them to the light. And in doing so, we are less likely to manifest these things truly into the world around us. And we give our children a very real chance at living in a peaceful world. If we practice mindfulness, we will know how to look deeply into the nature of war. And with our insight, wake people up so that together we can avoid repeating the same horrors again and again. The war is in us, but it is also in everyone. Everything is ready to explode, and we are all co-responsible. To conclude, when you are truly and deeply honest, truly and deeply know yourself, and truly and deeply know the shadows of collective humanity around you, when we acknowledge these things, we are actively stifling the manifestation of evil into the world around us. And that should always be our goal. We must do the deep inner work. And in doing this, we can allow goodness to thrive upon the planet. It is in the dark spaces, it is in the unconscious, it is in the unseen that the complexity of evil is allowed to develop. It is allowed to become stronger. And when we bring ourselves to light, it is not a figure of speech, it is more a figure of illumination. When we become illuminated by our own natures, then we can truly be good and do good on this planet.